Yeah, I think that we can start right now. So thank you all for attending the this interim meeting that will be focusing on the use cases and metrics. So today the host of the meetings we are, so here's Mid, and then we have Adrian. I don't know, Ping normally should be connected as well, but I think he has some difficulties to join so far. So Adrian, do you want to go through the slides, or you want me to do so?
Since you're presenting, you talk to them. That's fine.
So let's proceed like that. So this is just the usual note one. So make yourself really familiar with it. If you have any issue with any of the points mentioned there, so you know the procedure which is mentioned in that slide. If there are any problems and so on, so yeah, please just touch up with the chairs, and we will try to fix this out. So in terms of the meeting objectives that we have for today, there are actually 2 points. The one which is related to the use cases, and the other one about the metrics. So for the use cases drafts, one of the goals we wanted is to consolidate, I would say, the document and discuss the publication plan for it. Whether the working group wants to push the button for publishing as an RFC, or we just declare ourselves as the work is done and part the draft. The other point is related to the next for the metrics draft, which was adopted recently, is to see what are the next steps for it, how we can cover the dynamics and all of this aspect we'll discuss in the next in the metrics slot. So to that, I would say to those goals, we packed this the current agenda, which is displayed in front of you. So a big chunk of time will be, I would say, dedicated to the use cases. So and the requirements. The main points is that the people who are authoring the individual drafts will be presenting the essence of their contributions, and then we will say whether this is fitting the current working document we have adopted so far, and then we will have the discussion whether it makes sense to merge or abandon the document and so on. The other slots in the is on the metrics, and then we hopefully we can have some few minutes to discuss on the next steps for the working group. So any agenda batching at this time? If not, we can move to the next slide, and this one I will leave it to you, Adrian. That will basically see what I have said earlier. So yeah, if you can come out of that one.
Yeah, sure. So as chairs, we noticed that there were quite a lot of use case and requirements IDs popping up. And obviously, we've got a working group draft for capturing all the use cases and requirements. So we wanted to try to understand what the purpose of those individual drafts are and whether they can be folded into the working group document. And we just wanted to note that that working group document does not need to capture every use case that we can think of. It's meant to give some good examples of key use cases. And we don't have anything to prove. We've already got a working group. So this is not a shopping expedition. This is really trying to make something that will be useful for future generations as they understand what CATS is about. So our objective should be to try to finish this document, try to get it ready so we can call consensus and call it complete. We think that the time to do that will be immediately after the Bangkok IETF. We'll then have to make a decision as to whether the working group wants to publish this as an RFC, or just that we say, look, we've got consensus, we're done. And then the draft can live on, but just tagged as having consensus. And there's a link there that Med added to this slide. And you can go and click on to read what the ISG is currently saying about support documents. So documents that help support the work but are not actually protocol documents. And so as we go through the presentations today, we should be thinking, are they already in the use case draft, in which case maybe we can close them off? Are they in charter and important enough that we want to include them into the use case draft? And if so, do they have their own main sections, or should they go into the appendix as future use cases? So keep those things in mind, and we'll try to discuss each of them with each of the use cases. Okay. So this is a list of what we've got coming up, and I think we can just kick straight into these with one note. We polled the authors of the 5G Edge document to invite them along, and didn't get a response. And we also asked the authors of the service mobility document. They said they were interested, but they weren't yet ready to present. So we might cycle back to both of those documents in Bangkok. Okay.
Yeah. So with that, I think we can start with the first use case draft presentation. Yeah, so Jing, if you want to, we can give the control to you.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yeah, you're good, Jim.
Okay.
Looks like we're waiting for the slides to actually manage to share themselves. Yay, okay.
Okay. Thanks, Matt. Hello, everyone. This is Jing Wang from China Mobile. I'm here on behalf of the authors to report the draft about green challenges and use case in cache. Next slide, please.
You have actually the control, Jing, so you can please you can control them.
Okay, thank you. Before getting into the specifics of the challenges and use case, let's review why considering green in cache. As we all know, our reducing carbon footprint to net zero is one of mankind's grand challenges. With the continuous development and progress of the internet, a large amount of computing resources is required to complete data processing, which could produce a lot of energy consumption. Computing aware traffic steering is about the process of selecting service instance for directing traffic to them based on observed metrics for both computing and networking. So green cache is worth exploring. Okay, there are 6 green challenges in CAS. The first challenge is computing resource energy consumption modeling. The second challenge is joint optimization of computing and network. The third challenge is service imperience guarantee. The fourth challenge is energy consumption of other equipment. The fifth challenge is evaluation of computing equipment energy consumption performance. The sixth challenge is using of green energy. Okay. The first challenge is computing resource energy consumption modeling. Computing resource status is considered in CAS, so it is necessary to research the modeling of computing resource energy consumption in order to save energy. The energy consumption of the equipment is different with the load status. For example, the energy efficiency of equipment is different when it's not loaded or at full load. Therefore, it's also a challenge to consider which factors be considered when modeling the energy consumption of computing resources. The second challenge is joint optimization of computing and network. The magnitude of computing energy consumption may be different from the magnitude of network energy consumption, and how to weigh the ratio of network and computing status becomes a challenge when performing joint optimization. The third challenge is service appearance guarantee. The magnitude of computing energy consumption may differ from the magnitude of network energy consumption. Therefore, when computing and network are jointly optimized, how to weigh the two in joint optimization becomes a challenge. When the computing energy consumption is large enough, the impact of network energy consumption on the joint optimization results is negligible. The first challenge is energy consumption of other equipment. The computing resources may be in the data center, edge computing nodes, or others. In order to ensure the normal operation of network and computing equipment, the source of energy consumption is not only the equipment itself, but also some other equipment, such as core equipment. The fifth challenge is evaluation of computing equipment energy consumption performance. The energy efficiency level requirements of computing equipment can also be considered when performing traffic steering. The higher the energy efficiency level, the less energy is consumed by the same service. The lower energy efficiency level, the more energy is consumed by the same service. When the service provider wants to prioritize energy consumption, it can schedule the user request to the service instance with the highest level. There is no standard definition of computing equipment energy efficiency level. Therefore, it is difficult to consider the computing energy efficiency level of computing equipments when performing traffic steering. Okay, the last challenge is using a green energy. Green energy, also known as clean energy, refers to energy that doesn't emit pollutant and can be directly used for production and daily life, including nuclear energy and renewable energy. Renewable energy refers to energy source that can be regenerated from raw materials such as hydroelectric power, wind power, solar energy, bio, bioenergy, geothermal energy, and tidal energy. Renewable energy doesn't have the possibility of energy depletion. Therefore, the development and utilization of renewable energy are increasingly valued by many countries, especially those with energy shortages. The development of green gas cannot be separated from the use of green energy. The more green energy is used in cars, the least carbon footprint is emitted, and the greener it is. The consideration of the consumption of green energy for equipment in traffic steering is incomplete and further research is needed. Access to green metrics in CAS is fundamental to addressing the green challenges in CAS. So we give a use case for green CAS geared towards green computing aware traffic steering. The green metrics includes the energy consumption of network devices, as well as the energy consumption of computing resources. The following describes how green metrics are distributed under both distributed and centralized models. Figure point 1 shows an example of how green cat metrics can be disseminated in the distributed model. In this way, green metrics are distributed among network devices directly using distributed proposals without interactions with a centralized control plan. In Figure point 2, network metrics, computing metrics, and green metrics can be distributed in a centralized way. Green metrics are collected by the centralized control plan, and then the centralized control plan calculates the forwarding path corresponding to the energy efficiency demand request, and synchronized with the grass cat forwarder. There are two questions to consider in the email sent by the chair. The first one is whether this are in scope of the current chapter. Okay, the current chapter doesn't directly describe green-related work. The second one is should this be included in WD document? In my opinion, it would have been better if this had been included in the WD document. Thirdly, the computing matrix is defining characteristic of the CAS-WG and the green challenges that have been previously introduced are closely linked to the implementation of computing metrics. Therefore, it would be beneficial for the CAS-WG to consider these challenges. Secondly, the current charter of the Green WG specifically focuses on network devices and doesn't encompass servers. Therefore, it could be argued that CAS Green may not fall within the scope of Green. In addition, access to green metrics in CAS is fundamental to addressing the green challenges in CAS, and access to green metrics can be achieved by extending the existing CAS framework. Therefore, I wonder if there is any possibility to add the green-related work in CAS. That's all. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Jing, for explaining the use case and so on. So, any comments or question for clarification to Jing first?
Yeah, so thanks, Jing. I've got, I just want to sort something out in my head. You are interested in the overall green effect of CATs. So you're interested not just in the server energy consumption, but also in the network energy consumption. So we need just like we do for other metrics, we need the green metrics for the network and for the servers. Is that right?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm slightly worried that we're going to get ahead of the work that is being done in green and possibly in other working groups on the network pieces of the green problem, in particular the reporting energy consumption from the devices, and then maybe the traffic engineering part based on that. And I don't want us to get too far ahead of that core work. So I'm wondering whether we should see this as a future applicability of green rather than something we would work on at day one. Dirk, go ahead.
Sorry, I was just patiently waiting. I don't want to jump in. We have a bit spread on the chat a discussion on how to possibly capture those. I do agree that you don't want to go ahead of what the Green Working Group is doing and the details of the metrics. Other groups working on this. But the metric draft outlines the various levels, level 1, 2, and 3. Level 0, 1, 2, being a computer scientist starting at 0, on the various metrics. And I do believe it is a very, very strong aspect to add costs at least as a layer 1, and therefore normalizing or feeding into the normalized layer 2 metric into it. How the details of a layer 0 metric looks, I think that's where the Green Working Group comes in. How do you measure, what's the aspect of green that you want to have at the raw metric level? But that we at least, it even gives a message. At the moment we have compute, storage, network, and delay. But that the mechanisms at least foresee that somebody is able to plug in cost. And if you link, for instance, through, I don't know, carbon pricing or whatever pricing mechanism, energy into cost, you have energy awareness, right? And I do feel that the framework and the metric work in CATS should accommodate that. Because in the selection of a compute resource or compute site somewhere, if I'm sending traffic to site A versus site B, cost has to matter, and cost does matter. And if that cost, as I said, is linked to the energy I need to expend to run the cost, or the proportion of brown energy versus green energy that I'm expending at one side over the other, that will have an impact on whether or not I'm sending traffic that way. Right. So I think there can be a compromise between leaving the space open at the raw metric level, with layer 0 in the metric draft, but at least accommodating this in at the normalized level 1, and therefore, if it's on layer on level 1 of the normalized metrics, the overall level 2 can then consider use cases where, you know, this type of consideration for cost and of energy is being taken into account. I think what I was missing a little bit in the slides is a really dedicated use case. I think the slides on use case wasn't really what I would consider a use case, but we've been working in the past of, you know, idea, and even though they still sound futuristic, if you scale them up, they are quite normal. You know, they look into carbon negative operations of compute sites, and by allowing cost to be reflected in your metric, you can create scenarios where the entire overall use case, we used federated AI as well as caching for transport networks, can run essentially with an awareness of the cost/energy that you're expending in the deployment. For me, this is part of CATS. I mean, if you don't consider that, I think then we're just lying to ourselves.
Okay, thank you for your suggestions. I will take into account your suggestions in the future. Thank you.
Yes, so concretely, I would say for the overall, I would say goal we had for this discussion is whether we need to integrate some or none or all the I would say the use cases that you have described in the draft in the current CATS working group. I also think that with the point mentioned by Edwin, is that I think we are more on the area where we are, I would say, assessing the applicability of the CATS to the green rather than having a new use case itself. If it is just a matter of mentioning energy somewhere in the use case draft, I think that's something that we can. I don't think that's something which is difficult to do, and the authors can manage that. For the cost and so on, Dirk, I'm not sure whether we have to put all of this in the use case itself, because it's not only about, I would say, the cost. It may if we go deeper into discussion the energy stuff and so on and the greener. We may also need to discuss, I would say, the nature and the type of the energies and so on. And I am not sure that we are chartered to do that kind of investigation so far. So I don't know how we will proceed to have something which is really concrete for the discussion we wanted for today. But at least that was the observation that I wanted to make on this point. Yes, Dirk?
Yes, when I had a discussion before the meeting, I actually suggested you use the word applicability. And I think that's, to me, initially there was a better word to use. So I was more inclined to say, well, don't dump this all into the use case, otherwise it never finishes. It's an applicability of how you could use CATS to run an energy aware system, and we're all good on that. And that could be a separate document just for information. But having looked at the metric draft in a bit more detail ever since, to me, the difference between applicability and use case is that the use case actually imposes a thinking onto other or poses requirements on other aspects that are being discussed. And to me, having looked over the categories in the metric, I do feel really that costs need to be somehow being considered at some level of normalization, at least, even if details are missing at the raw level because other working groups are working on it. And given that cost is currently missing entirely in the metrics, I'm more inclined to now think that it's a use case, because the use case motivates the thinking that we're putting into other aspects like the metrics. right? And in order to inform the metric work to say, but we do have a use case that needs some expression of cost. So in metrics, we need to think about cost as well, because at the moment, the metrics draft doesn't do that. And I feel that's a pity.
Yeah, if we put the cost, I would say, discussion aside, which is not specific to the energy, may I ask the question whether is there something which is really specific to the energy discussion we are having here on the, I would say, the way we design the CATS framework and also the metric? Is there something else rather than the cost that is specific to the energy use case or applicable to whatever name we want?
I would leave it at cost. I mean, Sheng put a comment into the chat, and I like this. I talked about energy before, but I think the real thing, also in the work that I've been doing at TUM here with the Technical University in Munich, we actually normalize it through cost, even though it's an energy use case, if you will. But actually, the metric that we use semantically, it was actually cost. I find cost is a bit more. What is your driver to pick a less costly site over another? Otherwise, I don't particularly care if one site is less costly because you're just paying less money to the energy provider, even if you have brown energy. It needs to be considered. You would want to send more traffic to the less costly site, probably, in some use cases. And energy itself is just an input into it. So to me, energy may be at a level 0, right? And maybe we defer that work once the green working group gives us more input, because they don't have to be specified.
Yeah. So for the cost part, Dirk, may I ask that you can just go to the current use case, I would say, specification, and try to anchor the, I would say, the cost requirements from what we have already in the specification, and then come to the mailing list and continue the discussion on this one. Would that be okay with you?
Yeah, I didn't come actually to get some work, but I think it's required. Yes, volunteer me for that. That's. I think it's good. I think it's good. Let me have a discussion also with Sheng about this. I think we can capture that.
Yes. So please just have something to ensure, I would say, the discussion, and then so that we can have something solid to work on it, and try to keep it from there. So thank you, Dirk.
No problem.
Yeah, Adrian, Ping, how do you want to proceed for? I would say, should we try to make some kind of conclusion so far on the green use case, or we just leave the discussion open and catch up in the backup meeting? Adrian?
Yeah, I think we need to do some homework, but it feels to me that this needs a description, and maybe it impacts more the requirements than the use cases part of the document.
Yeah, thank you, Adrian. Ping, do you have any comment on this?
Oh, sorry. Do you call me?
Yes. Do you have any comment on the current discussion, or we can just proceed?
Okay. I don't have more comments. I think the discussion is good, and we can follow the discussion as Dirk and you and Adrian. Yes. And my connection is a little bad, so I may miss some discussions. Yeah.
Thank you, Ping. So with that, we can move to the next one. So Paul, and I apologize, Paul, for I would say missing the first one, but there was some mismatch in the file name, and so. But anyway, we are there.
Okay. Hello, guys. Can you hear me? Okay. Mohamed, can you hear me?
Yeah. Yes, please.
Okay, good. So I will present the 10 minutes, right? Okay, so I will start. Okay. So hello, everyone. This is a project. So last, the Ireland, the Dublin milling, I shortly addressed, but today I focus on why this one is added to our main problem statement and the requirement use cases draft. Okay, next slide, please. Oh, okay. Oh, I can next slide. Okay. So the motivation is we try to compensate the existing CATS ITS use cases. So already we have a good use cases, but my opinion is we can accommodate the more useful CATS ITS use cases like context-aware navigation protocol edge-assisted cluster-based MAC protocol, self-adaptive interactive navigation protocol, and cloud-based drone navigation. So we can consider the aspect of IETF. So especially transmission capacity. So to provide collision prediction and avoidance in the IETF in road networks, video processing using dashboard camera to detect pedestrian or other vehicles are very important. So this case, it is not good enough processing in vehicle capability. We needed to get some help from the edge side. Also, overcoming non-line of sight problem, so the vehicles can share video images to detect the other vehicle or other pedestrian using nearest edge node. Also, handling delay-sensitive services. So especially the video communication among vehicle case, a lot of vehicles moving together, so we needed to dispatch the traffic to other IETF. Also, we consider load balancing, also context migration for the vehicles also considered. So the issues are we can consider steering of various IETF services instances like car navigation, cooperative driving for safety, like autonomous vehicle, and infotainment. They have a different level of requirement. We need to consider that. Also, how can an IETF edge server steer a pedestrian to car, car to car, or car to infrastructure traffic toward the corresponding intelligent driving services? Okay. So here are requirements for CATS IETF use cases. So dynamic mapping between required service and the service instance. So I think current document, use case document can address this one well. But I think the second one, runtime context migration, not quite handled well, like the vehicles between edge servers, the context migration is required, like vehicles context includes mobility information like coordinate of vehicle, also direction, speed, and communication parameter like a channel, time slot to provide timely communication among vehicles or vehicle and infrastructure node like base station in 5G network. Those contexts is transferred to an appropriate service instance in our catch, along with its moving over time, which means a handover of context is required. Also, the third one of the important current our problem statement use case requirement document doesn't consider proactive load balancing among service instances, considering required part of service, part of experience for vehicles should be considered. To consider the trajectory of vehicle along the node network. Also, we consider load tracking in advance. So we prepare resource like the channel or the time slot or some computing the memory or CPU, etc. For number 4, dynamic clustering. So the provide autonomous vehicle communication case clustering are important using V2X, V2B. So using the edge server should proactively manage cluster vehicle to communicate to provide some collision avoidance. And number 5 is dynamic network configuration for vehicle network forwarding entities like base station in the 5G, G-Node B, and the switches and router consider the 5G core or edge side network. And differentiated packet scheduling. So we have three kinds: navigation and autonomous vehicle, or some driving safety and infotainment case. We should consider different level of traffic scheduling required. So from now on, I will shortly explain the use cases. Okay, context-aware navigation protocol. So this one is provide the vehicle with automatic maneuver control to avoid accident through edge side. So the requirement is previous slide. We have several requirements. So those requirements required. Okay, addressed. Next one is edge-assisted cluster-based MAC protocol provide timely and reliable communication case. Also, the edge, the server can provide some resource allocation in advance. Next one is a self-adaptive interactive navigation for efficient navigation. So Saint or Saint++ provide the lost hour load navigation optimization. Saint+ case can support the emergency, like accident happen, how to deliver ambulance or fire engine, police car to an accident spot timely. So requirement also you can see. The last use case is cloud-based drone navigation. So nowadays Amazon, so they launched some drone-based delivery, right? So in that case, long distance case, battery charging also should be considered. So the edge instance case can schedule some consider drone traffic jam or some charging station some condition, so it can distribute, also disseminate drone traffic, also consider navigation some delay. So finally, I believe this draft can help current our problem statement use cases requirement draft in terms of ITS traffic. So my suggestion is we can add some, at least some useful some use cases the requirements presented today. Also, for use cases can be adopted as an appendix, or we can consolidate the current ITS appendix section. So also in the meanwhile, my group also working some solutions. So catch requirements, also catch framework. We try to realize these ITS use cases. So we keep developing this one. Maybe we can make another draft in terms of implementation guideline, consider catch requirements and framework. So I believe this draft can solve applicability of catch to ITS use cases, considering catch framework. Okay, thank you for your attention. Please let me know your opinion and suggestion. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Paul. That's helpful for me. I think I see two actions. The first action is to look at the existing working group draft, especially section 4.2,
Right.
which is on or aims to be about ITS,
Right.
and suggest some edits and changes that you would like to see to make the current working group draft more suitable for what you have in mind.
Right.
And probably there would also be some suggestions for edits to the requirements in section 5.
Right.
So that's the first thing for the use case and requirements to do that merge. I think it has to come from you. Don't sit and wait for the editors to do the merge, but please suggest changes and text.
Right. Yeah. Sure.
And then, as you say, the second thing is to change this draft. Once all the use case and requirements work has been moved into the working group draft, to change this draft to be the applicability statement. I think that's a nice idea and a way of showing people how CATs can be used. I think as a separate document, so not part of the framework, but its own document on applicability. That's probably quite a slow piece of work, because you will need the framework and the solutions to develop more before you can fully complete the applicability.
Right. Okay. So
yeah,
I agree with you. Yeah.
Good. That sounds reasonable. Okay.
So, I have one question. So, existing 4 IETF use cases can be included on appendix, or currently we have IETF appendix, right? So
no, currently we have section 4.2.
Yeah. So is it possible to add appendix those 4 use cases?
I would prefer to see it in the main text in section 4.2.
Yeah. I think yes. Okay. I see. Your suggestion is summarize those idea main text and requirement section 4 and 5, right?
Yeah.
Okay. I see. Okay. So, Mohamed, do you have any suggestion, comment?
Yes. So exactly what Adrian said. Yeah. Focus on what is not already mentioned and described in the use case, and then bring this new aspect so that the authors of the CATS working draft can integrate it. We don't need to have, I would say, a lot of text. We need just to have the, I would say, the core and main points that we think that are missing from the working group document, so that we can capture them. So please do that homework, go to the mailing list, share the text, and then we can have the discussion on the list.
Okay, sure. Yeah. Okay. So Mohamed, okay, and Adrian. So as suggested by you, the chairs. So I will suggest some text accommodate my draft in terms of requirement use cases section 4 and 5. So I provide the editor of this main our use case document, right? And and do that. Okay.
Hank?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, yeah, I agree with Adrian and Matt says. Please use GitHub to propose some text for section 4.2 and section 5. And when you're doing that, actually, I'm kind of confused about the use case. It talks a lot about a protocol, different kind of protocol. So protocol sounds like a solution, but not a use case or requirement, right?
Okay, so actually, I will maybe my previous 4 use cases already published by a journal paper. We implemented the simulations, so we focus on the problem use cases rather than protocol. Maybe we can refer to my previous papers, but in this problem statement, use case is our main draft. So I will focus on some problem itself. Okay.
Okay.
Some direction requirement. Okay.
Okay. Sounds good.
Okay. Okay. Great. Yeah. Thank you for your comment. Okay. Thank you.
Hello. Can you hear me? Hello.
Yes, Tao, please.
Oh, thank you. I'm glad to introduce our industrial use cases. we want to study the application of CAS technology in the industrial internet. The background I had introduced last year. So I want to say our use cases are characterized by the need for collaborative control of the network side and the cloud, which depends on the vertical industry and the production scenario. The demands of the industrial scene will have unique characteristics and requirements according to the industry. So industrial production tasks are time sensitive, which put forward high requirements on networks and computing power. We mainly focus on the application scenarios and the requirements. Are not present in the current working group charter. The basic structure of these use cases are the same as that defined in section 3.1 of work group charter. In addition, we consider the industrial production equipment and their industrial applications. We know that the current use cases in work group charter do not cover all situations in the industrial area. Thus, our use cases are a good complement for this charter. And the industrial sector will need more network power and computing power in the future. And the network needs to aware the computing power based on the production processes. So the industrial internet is an important application area of CAS. In the intelligent production line, industrial terminals, edge computing, and the cloud services are interconnected through the factory network, forming a deployment structure of 2 levels and 3 domains, just as shown in figure. When the production plan changes, the use of computing power changes, and thus the network needs to be dynamically adjusted. As algorithms become more complex, the connection between industrial terminals and various computing power facilities will become closer. This further leads to the increased importance of collaboration between networks and computing. Industrial production tasks put forward high requirements and needs to meet the deterministic requirements in terms of delay, jitter, reliability, and so on. Next, I will introduce 3 typical use cases. First is computing-aware industrial robots. The automatic manufacturing of soft materials has always been a difficult problem in industrial manufacturing. For the sake of unpredictable deformation of materials, it brings difficulties to the traditional equipment unless it can recognize real-time states of the deformation for products. Furthermore, product lines needs to accurately perform operations and correct the negative effects of the deformation. The execution of complex assembly tasks in intelligent manufacturing requires the cooperation of multiple robots. In this use case, we need to consider the impacts of the robot's machine learning on the network transport. In flexible manufacturing, the differences in the processing tasks of the robot application will affect the use of computing power, which in terms of affects the routing of CAS. And the second use cases is about computing aware vCloud terminal. I saw there is a digital twin use case in existing worker group charter, and our use cases mainly focus on multiple industrial equipment, which applications had been migrated to cloud. And cloud services are control functions migrated from physical devices to industrial cloud, data center or edge, dramatically reducing production line costs. The requirements of network cooperation are proposed to reflect the exact requirements from end to end at the application level. This requires the network to connect the computing power of physical production equipment and cloud applications. Thus, cloud services change flexibly, creating challenges for network adaptation to meet the application's high performance requirements, such as communication delay, bandwidth, and cloud computing power. Typical scenarios for cloud X services include on-site production line equipment control, robot control, automatic guided vehicle control, GPLC, and so on. The third use case is about computing-aware multi-application collaboration. Industrial applications and computing services work together to implement the entire production process, affecting the performance of the entire production process as the computing power changes on the edge side and the cloud side. By varying the status of computing power used by multiple applications, CAS can adjust the network configuration to optimize the entire production process in order to ensure the certainty of the entire production business. Is necessary to globally manage a series of applications and network transmission. Basically, I clearly think about your opinion, and we will our use cases are working in the industrial area, so we can insert our use cases to the existing worker group charter. At the present, use cases in the working groups charter mainly focus on AR, VR, AI, digital twins, and so on. And there is only one industrial CAS use case. The differences of use cases and the requirements among different industry areas are tremendous. Therefore, our work of use cases and the requirements is a good supplement for this charter. In the future, we will also study the safety requirements of industrial CAS. I consider two methods to add a charter to existing work group charter. First is add our information to the corresponding chapter with the same name. In the future, we continue refine our use cases and the requirements. Second, we add an industrial use case to the use case chapter, and then we present several modes in it. Our next plan consists of three parts. First part is to enrich and improve the use cases to bring it closer to the description of work group charter. Second part is to supplement the requirements. The third part is to explore CAS technology in the industrial internet. This is my second report in this work group, and we hope to collaborate with more interested researchers. This is all the content of my report. Thank you.
Thank you, Tao, for presenting the draft and also for you can create a plan of action for next on this one. I think personally that there are something that is really specific to your use cases, mainly the tension business aspect and also deterministic nature of the use case. So I think it's reasonable to include a subsection that we cover your use case. But I don't think that you will, I would say, import all the text that you have currently in your draft into the current working group document. So one work and
hello, Matt.
Yes,
sorry. Do you mind to close to the mic because people are confused?
You're a bit muffled. You're a bit muffled, man.
Yeah.
It seems like you have a filter in front of your mouth. Just move the microphone maybe a little bit in front.
Yeah. Keep closer.
I can't hear you clearly.
Yeah.
Is it good right now?
Yeah, it's better now. It's better now. You just cut out all your troubles. They were all gone, so you sounded like in a tin.
Okay, so yeah, so what I mentioned now is that it's reasonable, I would say, to include the I would say the main point of your use case into the working group document. So but then the challenge for you is to try to summarize, I would say, what you have there at the description of the use case and also the of the requirements, and then propose them to the working group for the inclusion. So do you think that this is something that you can consider in the coming weeks, that we can have something to discuss on the mailing list?
Pardon? I'm sorry, I can't follow your opinion.
Okay, Matt, we can't really hear you clearly. Yeah.
Really? Okay, so I don't know what has the problem on the mic. Adrian, you can.
Yeah, let me try. Hopefully, I'm in sync. I liked your slide number 6. Made some, I think, concrete proposals that you would add a new subsection to section 4 of the use case and requirements to cover industrial. I think that's good. And I think you might need to look at the requirements listed in section 5 and see if there are any new ones that your use case brings forward. That looks like a reasonable approach to me. Just remember, you have to do the work. So you need to produce about 2 pages of text to go in the working group draft to summarize your use case and explain it. And then if you send that to the list, we will discuss it and the editors will include it in the working group draft.
Okay, I realized, and I will do as you said.
Brilliant, thank you.
Oh, thank you.
Okay, well, I think there's some comments from the last presentations of your draft, so please also remember to address it, as I can remember it from Carlos, and there's a draft in .NET working group, and please also look through the draft.
Okay.
Yeah, that's a good point, Pong. Thank you, because this use case does overlap a bit with .NET, and we need to make sure we keep that clear.
Yes, I think that in fact I don't think that the use case really require both .NET and CAS. So you can try to also present your work in .NET, and if there's some problems, you can also only address the CAS part of the work and in CAS working group.
Okay.
All right, Med, do we have the next set of slides?
Thank you.
Yes, hello everyone. Can you hear me well?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Adrian. Thank you, Matt. Thank you, Ben. So I will present here the case about the usage of cats for mid-haul networks. I didn't include any figure from the use case. I think maybe most of you are familiar with that. Just few words for those that are not so familiar. So here the point is in ORAN, there is this idea of going into the radio functional split. What does it mean? It means basically that the processing capabilities that are in the conventional radio base stations are somehow split in basically, roughly speaking, in real-time processing capabilities and non-real-time processing capabilities, being those processing capabilities located in different parts of the network. So from the monolithic radio base station, we transition to a scenario where we have the antenna, we have the real-time processing capabilities in a functional component called distributed unit, and the non-real-time processing capabilities in a component called centralized unit. Both the DU and the CU can be virtualized. In some cases, the DU is also a physical appliance, but the trend for the CU for sure is to be virtualized, then being instantiated in cloud and edge capabilities. So this is essentially the architectural scenario, and the idea would be to leverage on CATs for providing flexibility in the connectivity between the DU and the CU. Nowadays, that connectivity is almost static along the time. So the idea is to evolve that connectivity to some, in order to incorporate some dynamicity. And all this management of the association between the DU and the CU is being performed by the control plane capabilities from ORAN, being defined in ORAN, the Service and Management Orchestrator, and the cloud management system for whatever it is concerning the instantiation of the functionalities in the cloud environment, in the cloud edge environment. So this is the problem statement, let's say, the situation, the scenario, and what we are proposing in this respect. So going into the structure that the chairs ask us for this session. So what is the draft about? I basically have summarized the point. So the draft contents nowadays has this architectural description, so the applicability of CATs for ORAN scenarios. Pursuing that flexibility, and that flexibility could be motivated by different situations. For instance, workload consolidation in different times of the day, resiliency, and so on and so forth. So different motivations for having this dynamicity. We also include in the draft today a reference to compute-related metrics that are considered in ORAN specification. Essentially, in the information model, the specs that are now available, they comment about the CPU average usage, the memory usage, and so on and so forth. Others could be for sure incorporated. We have discussed before about the energy, and there will be others, certainly. Also, we add some high-level description of the interaction between the ORAN and the IETF control plane components. This is important because, as said, the ORAN control plane components are those governing the relationship between the DU, the association between the DU and the CU. So somehow, if we put CATs into the picture, we need also to work on the direction of having this interaction between the control plane elements in the ORAN domain and the IETF domain. Okay, so the draft is also commenting about that. So how fits the draft in the CAT charter? So how here we can divide, according to the contents that you saw before, we can divide the fitting on the charter in two ways. For the topic about groundwork that might be documented via a set of informational internet drafts, so we have two sub-items, the use cases for steering traffic and the requirements. So certainly for the use cases, the ORAN case could be one of the cases to consider, and certainly as well, the requirements that are being defined in ORAN could be somehow taken into account on the requirements for computing metrics to be considered as well in CATS. This is for the item on groundwork, and so for the other item on the overall CATS framework and architecture, we consider that the interactions between the ORAN and the IETF control plane components could be also relevant to be described in order to enable the possibility of ORAN to interact with the CATS control plane components. And the final slide on this is how we propose to include the ideas of the draft in the use cases draft, or how to progress the draft, basically. So we consider that maybe the mid-haul scenario, this use cases scenario can be moved, as well as the compute metrics from ORAN can be moved to the use cases document. This is nice in the sense that somehow we will be including something that is supported by a specification, so we have a clear reference, and also we could have feedback from ORAN. We could move this via liaison or whatever other mechanism in order to have, let's say, real demand in terms of actual metrics that will be considered in an external system. And then for the other part, the interaction between the ORAN and IETF control plane interactions, probably this would be, we consider that would be part of another document, where essentially we could work on that interface. What would be the needs of that interface in terms of, I mean, the interfaces themselves. So we need some control. Maybe we need to enforce the steering. We need to populate metrics from one domain to another, and so on and so far. So talking about that, the models and so, and also essentially to make clear what could be the interaction between ORAN SMO, ORAN Cloud, and the components in CATS, maybe the path selector and these kind of things. That would be essentially architectural work, not use cases. And yeah, and I think that that I'm done with this. Adrian, thank you.
Thank you, Luis. On your first point, is there something which is really, I would say, specific to this draft? Because when I read it, I don't see, I would say, any specific requirements from your draft that can be injected into the current document. Can you identify some of this, or you just where we focus more on the second bullet rather than the first one in your current proposed plan?
Well, I think that we could incorporate two things. The metrics, that's clear, so we can do a direct reference to what is now in the ORAN specification. And as a requirement, probably the idea of enable this interaction with external systems. By now, CATS, as proposed, is somehow closed environment, right? But here we are discussing of enabling the interaction of the CATS components with external components, and that probably could be part of the requirements.
Okay, so that's interesting that you highlight this one. Can you just please extract this part and send it to the mailing list so that we can discuss and focus on it as concrete, I would say, answer points to integrate into the current CATS document. And sure. On the second point, you mentioned that collaborating and coordinating with the ORAN and so on. I don't know if we just send a little statements right now to them will be useful, because we don't have something concrete to tell them. We just have, I would say, the use cases. We don't have solutions so far. We have the framework, but yes, if you think that it can be useful for them to formally know that there is work which is happening in this area that can be useful for them. This may be something that we can consider on our side as well. So, and we can discuss that with the chairs and also with the working group if you think that this is useful.
Okay, I think probably could be useful for maybe triggering the discussion of the relevant metrics that they could consider in the computer space, so that we can have this, let's say, have metrics that would be demanded by a customer of CATS, let's say. And yeah, maybe that could be something that we could start moving on if you consider it relevant.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Luis. Hank, please.
Okay, I have a few comments regarding this ORAN. First of all, ORAN is kind of controversial. It's only one type of RAN in the future. So I would like to say as IETF and it's in another organization. So in IETF, we probably should not pick a side ahead of the RAN. And the second, I'm afraid in our working group, there are not enough experts knowing the ORAN. So maybe we are not very good at to judge if CAS is fit with ORAN. And if ORAN says they need the CAS technology, they can send some liaison letter to us, then we can discuss if we should include this use case into our charter.
Okay, thank you, Han. Let me say a few words on this. We are, as I mentioned at the beginning, we are focusing on the mid-haul interface. The mid-haul interface is also known as F1 interface in 3GPP, so it will be equally applicable for 3GPP, even though this is triggered for the activity in ORAN. Regarding the ORAN expertise, let me say that Mark, my co-author Mark, is the chair of the Working Group 9 in ORAN, so we have basically the knowledge of ORAN here. I'm also participating there. And we have TNG, which is also participating in 3GPP for what we refer to F1 interface. So somehow we are dropping here some ideas with some background on the topic. So it's not just an idea totally isolated for what is happening in ORAN and 3GPP. And regarding, you mentioned as well that the ORAN is focusing in just one single radio. I think that is not correct. It's focusing on 5G, 4G, now 6G. So somehow whatever radio the technology that would be out there would be matter of ORAN analysis. So does not prevent to use one technology or another. I'm not sure if that was the comment. So.
No, I mean ORAN is just one of the solutions for RAN for radio technology. There are some kind of other RAN technologies. So and they are competing with each other. So we may pick one side to only do the case for ORAN, but not for other RAN. You know?
Well, maybe the need has been rising in the ORAN case. That would be a set applicable to F1 interface in 3GPP. Maybe the other technologies does not have this need. So we cannot, let's say, stop solving the problem of one technology because the others do not realize on that problem, no?
Yeah, if ORAN explicitly says they need the CATs, they can send us the liaison letters so that we can know. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. Can you hear me? I'll just try to make sure.
Yeah. Yes.
Hello. Oh, yeah. The thing here. Thank you, Luis. As all co-author of the draft, I want to emphasize ORAN is very useful here. And also is one of the type of the technologies. So I believe this draft is applicable for CATs and also for general technologies, not just the ORAN. So the thing is like, let's not put this one like Han said, is that too specific or restricted. So I think to send some liaison and working with ORAN will be a useful way to push forward of the draft, and also totally agree with what Luis has proposed toward the end of the presentation about things. And looking at the current use cases, there are 5 use cases in the use case draft, and then there's not much related to the wireless domains here. So this one will be a very good supplementary use case for the current working group use case draft. And it does introduce some additional requirements for the chapter 5 of the draft. Yeah, thank you.
Yes. So Luis, how do you feel about, I would say, the which I would say part will start the liaison coordination? Do you think is it more on the, given what we heard so far, on the ORAN side express interest, or?
Probably there could be 2 different liaisons, maybe one about the metrics and maybe for the metrics, maybe IETF will be the one triggering the liaison, I think. Maybe the other liaison could be maybe what Han was commenting about the expressing the need from ORAN on working on cats. Probably that will be the ORAN side, the one triggering. I would say, let me discuss please with Mark, which is involved in the management or in the chairing of the working group in ORAN, and maybe we can come back with some ideas if you wish.
Yeah, okay. I think that's will be really good, because if we have that side, it will be easier to let them know about the metric work, and also seek for feedback on that part as well. So I would prefer that way. That means that just contact us and then we inform them, and also seek for the feedback on the metric side.
Okay, wonderful.
Okay, so please update the working group once you have some progress on this on the mailing list, and then we can take it from there and do the right thing there. So thank you, Luis,
Thank you.
sharing. So with that, we have I would say finished all the presentation that were scheduled for the first part on the use cases. So I thought maybe if we can have, I would say, the editors of the use case draft, if they can share, I would say, the current status and the progress and the plans for updating the document before the Bangkok meeting. So any one of the editors, if you can go to the mic and share your feedback on this, please.
And I'd just say, as part of that the responsibility is on the authors of these individual use case drafts to come forward with suggested edits to the working group draft that the editors can then pick up, because it's a bit much to ask the editors to go and generate new text themselves for other people's work. So if you've just presented a draft, look at the minutes to check what your actions are, and follow through as soon as you can, to give us all a little bit of chance to get this done and ready before Bangkok. I don't know, Kihan, are you with us, aren't you? Did that all seem reasonable as to what actions you'd have to take?
Hi, Agent. Can I just jump in?
Yeah, please.
Hi, everyone. Thank you all for your presentations and excellent discussion on use cases and the requirements. So, representing the co-authors of the current CAS working group use cases and requirements draft, I have something to add here. So, yes, I agree with some basic principles for merge these different use cases or requirement draft. The first is that for the current draft, you already see that we have like 5 use cases, and it also they can cover different aspects. For example, like different applications like compute aware AR or distributed AI or Internet of Vehicles, and also the other angle is that it can force into different specific deployment or network architecture like SD-WAN. So we can cover many aspects as well. So the principle is that if you have new requirements, specific requirements, you can, and then this might be a very important reason to add your use case into the current working group draft. And I also see that there is very interesting and very good discussion on energy topic, and maybe that energy is a good topic and also and meaningful aspect to select some new to add new requirements as well, and also select energy efficient service instance. I think this makes sense, but the requirements draft will be aligned with the framework draft and also be aligned with the matrix draft, as I will present in the next slide. So yes, I think the energy aspect can add new requirement, but on the other side we need also consider for the implementations of these different aspects of the matrix as well. So this is my comment on the use case in the requirement draft. Thank you all.
Okay, thank you. That's helpful, and I look forward to seeing suggestions on the mailing list. And so this is you again, Kehan.
Yes, I think this topic will be the third milestone work that has been recently adopted by the working group, the CAS metric definition. So thanks for all the work and all the contribution from the CAS working group. So so currently that we have 5 authors, and me from China Mobile, and Han and Chen from Huawei, and also Louis from Telefonica and Jordi from Qualcomm. And next slide, please. So
you can control the slide by yourself.
Thank you. Thank you, Matt. So here are some very quick update since the individual draft. So the primary update, we add co-authors Louis and Jordi, and then we negotiate with each other on the two drafts, individual drafts, during the last IETF meeting. And then we absorbed most of the comments from Matt, number 13 in GitHub, and then we polished some matrix definitions, and then we asked for the adoption call, and we add some examples in matrix representation in section 4. So these are the primary updates from the individual draft to the current working group document. And then we have summarized most of the comments received from the list, and also in the last IETF meeting. And also we have some twice at least one discussion during this after IETF 121 to the interim meeting among the co-authors. And then all of these comments have been uploaded to GitHub, and yes, and recently we have received the comments from Adrian and also Matt and also Joe. And I think the most important comment here that need to be presented today is a scope of CAS matrix. And also I think previous discussion on energy also is very falls into the discussion of on the scope of the CAS matrix. And as I copied the comment from Adrian, here are 2 basic choice for us to choose to focus on. The choice A is that the document is about only computing metrics, in which case we probably need to drop the sections and references about networking matrix and think very hard about story matrix. And the second one is about all CAS matrix, which I mean that all the matrix at the compute side, just as discussion mentioned about like compute, networking, and also energy may be interested. These are all the matrix that we can cover. So personally, as in the marked in blue, from my personal opinion, that I'm inclined to choose B. And also I have some discussion with the other co-authors, Louis and Han, and I think they are also inclined to choose B2, and also Chan and Jordi. He had some personal issues and cannot attend today's meeting. But the co-authors will carefully think about the choices and have formal reply to the list in the next before the next version update. So the reason for choose B is that we want to cover most of the useful matrix for the derivation of the normalized matrix, like level 1 and level 2, and because we have did some tests in different use cases, and then we found that no matter it's like a storage matrix, like IO speed, and or like the matrix you find people mentioned, like energy matrix, they are all very useful for the derivation of some higher level higher layer matrix for the service instance selection. So I think we need for the scope we need to cover all of it, not just the normal normal compute matrix. So we can have some further discussion on the scope of this matrix. And also, I have summarized most of the comments received in the list, most from Adrian. Like that, other comments is about matrix definitions and the representation. For example, like we need add more references, or like we need to change the figure to be more, correct, more accurate on like how level 0 matrix to link with level 2 matrix, and also many other issues related to matrix representations. Yes, I admit that the current version is very basic and lack very detailed design and careful design. So, and also we have received other constructive comments on the overall considerations. For example, we need to have better alignment with CAS framework on the usage of matrix in CAS components, and also for a very important, a comment from Joe is raised in IETF or 121's how should independent implementers of a given service normalize their matrix so that the ingress node where the decision maker can make comparisons. I think this is very important, because we need to think about how we can guide these implementers to compare matrix and also to use this matrix. After all, that building a multi-objective normalization function to derive a level 2 matrix will not be easy. So we need to think about it before we design the matrix. And then we have some distractions over a topic like the INR registries. We will not, discuss it today. We will, keep on to see the matrix can influence protocol design. So for next steps, I think the co-authors will carefully address the comments from the list and the GitHub, and think carefully, especially on the first thing is the scope of the definition, and then we will quite carefully design the matrix and also align with the other two working group document and think about how to normalize matrix, where to normalize matrix, and how to compare matrix. And then we will start to quantify this information and its variance frequency. And then we will upload a new version before Bangkok meeting. So this is the overall plan before the next meeting. And any comment? Thank you.
Well, yes, you told me what I wanted to hear as your micromanager, and look forward to seeing the new revision before Bangkok. Obviously, encourage everybody to be reviewing and making suggestions as well.
Okay, thank you.
So I think that takes us to the last little bit of the meeting, which is really an open mic for anybody who's got anything they want to say about cats, anything they want to see more emphasis or progress on. Now's your chance to talk.
This is Tianji again. Oh, somebody is sharing. Oh, it's just an open mic question right now.
Yeah, you go ahead.
Yeah.
Tianji.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Here. Well, this question is for chairs of the group here. So far, if we look at the CATS working group, there are 3 working group documents: use case requirements, metrics, and a framework. It seems it's already covered all the CATS wants to cover in charter. So I wonder is like how to progress with some more contributions. So I hope chairs and also the working group can think of some roadmap such that for other contributions, for more contributions, that would also be adopted with some way for the working groups. Otherwise, seems that these 3 working group documents will just fulfill all the requirements of CATS. So yeah, this is like open question. Thank you.
Yeah, no, I think that's a reasonable question, because now we've got these 3 documents adopted, we can start to look a little further forward towards technology. And if you look at the charter, especially towards the bottom, we've got 2 major bullets: additional groundwork to include, and applicability of existing tools and mechanisms. And I think we are just about ready to start looking into those things, working out, now we're beginning to understand the metrics, what are the mechanisms that we might need to distribute them, what are the rate of change of those metrics, and so what are the implications for how we distribute the metrics, and then start to look at what are the existing control and data plane tools that we might reuse, and are there any deficiencies that need to be addressed. So we're in a good position to start that work.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, fully agree with what Adrian mentioned. And I think that it's also a request for all of you as working group participants is that if you want to see more work be adopted by the working group, we need to, I would say, move the current document to a state in which we think that is more stable. So please review all the documents that we are adopted so far, contribute to them so that we can progress them, and then we'll be confident, I would say, in endorsing new items. If we cannot digest the document we have already so far, it will be difficult for us to start other fronts if we don't have commitment from the working group. So please, let's show the evidence that we can work on more items, but reviewing, commenting, and so on. And everyone is welcome to do that.
Anyone else? All right, I think we'll take silence as either meaning somebody can't get off mute or we're done. Thank you for the minutes that have been contributed, and especially Chong for driving that. We'll polish those and get them published quickly. And I'd say to everybody, the sooner you follow up with your text suggestions, the sooner things will move forward. Anything else, Med, Pong?
Not from my side.
Yeah, no, nothing. But I do really want the authors of the individual draft could remember the actions and do the homework quickly.
Very good. Okay, then I think we are done for today. Thank you, everybody, for attending, and look forward to seeing follow-ups on the list. See you in Bangkok.
Okay, thank you. Yeah.
Thank you. Bye.
Yeah,
Okay,
thank
see
you.
you.
See you.
Bye bye.